We try to think and look at the positive sides of beer.
Exactly. It is an ancient Canadian beer scroll.
That I love.
If you took the essence of beer and you like Alessandro, we are back in the Beer Brackets pub. This wonderful Beer Brackets pub. And today,
Isn't it wonderful?
it's beautiful. I love it. We are back.
It's cozy, and there's a beer fire, maybe.
Man, look at this beer. Look at this beer that we are reviewing today. We're continuing on with this series of episodes exploring our heritage. We've already explored Alessandro's Italian heritage, and now we are going deep on my Canadian heritage. Apparently, this is one of the most popular beers that's sold in Canada right now. Molson Canadian. Oh, boy. Oh boy, that's all I gotta say. This is gonna be an interesting one, man. I have a beer surprise for you, though. I do.
Beer surprise? That's the best kind of surprise.
Say what you will about the quality of this beer. There is a lot of history to this beer, and this beer, at least the brewery, the Molson Brewery, and this is the first Molson beer that we're reviewing on the channel, so it's a really big deal because they do have a very strong place in Canadian history. But before we get into its history, my friend, I do have something to show you.
All right, I'm excited already.
Look at this. It is an ancient Canadian beer scroll, my friend.
Love it.
I must unravel. I found this beer scroll.
Where did you find the beer scroll? In a beer river?
Floating in the St. Lawrence River.
I'm sure the question that all our viewers have is that, can you drink out of this beer river or not?
Let us read this beer. Look at the wavy paper.
Look at that, I love it.
Right.
Okay.
So, before we get into this, let's learn a little bit. We have to learn. Okay, let's learn a little bit about Molson Canadian before we get into this. And there's some really important points that we need to get over with this. All right, you got to listen. You got to listen, buddy. All right.
I'm ready.
Serious. You got to put on your serious beer face. In 1786, our friend John Molson sailed over in a leaky, rickety boat from England to Canada. Apparently, it says leaky in the description. He did. And he founded the Molson Brewery that same year, 1786, which actually makes it the oldest brewery in North America. Which, isn't that crazy? Molson Brewery, there you go. And then in 1836, and here's the influence that good old John Molson, we talk about Arthur Guinness a lot on the channel. Good old John Molson is a historical beer figure on himself, and I'm very happy that he's getting some featuring here on the channel. He helped create the first ever railroad between Canada and the U.S. in 1836, linking Montreal and New York City. Isn't that crazy? And that's so cool, right? Beer scrolls don't lie. Cool. They don't lie. And also, I can see that you have the bottle of Molson Export there, right? You see this new branding that they have on? You see that little hexagon shape that's on the bottle there?
Yeah.
You know what that is? The beer scroll will tell us. Just a moment. I will tell you what that is.
I don't know what it is.
In 1950, Molson installed Quebec's largest functional clock on the side of the Molson Brewery, which has become kind of like a staple of the skyline of Montreal. And it's in that shape. It's in the hexagon shape. So that's what that represents. It's kind of like this part of the skyline of Montreal, Quebec there, my hometown. Yeah. And the clock is visible from 12 kilometers away. And then in 1959, finally, to wrap up our beer scroll history for the day, they released Molson Canadian.
That's a wonderful beer scroll that you found there, my friend.
I know. What are the odds? What are the odds that I would find this beer scroll before doing this review?
I think it's it's not that you found the beer scroll, it's the beer scroll that found you.
That's so true. It did find me.
It was looking for you. Waiting.
It was. All right, buddy, let's open these beers. Let's get this review started and see what we think about Molson Canadian Lager.
This is wonderful. And thank you so much for educating us on this wonderful beer, my friend.
You're welcome. All right. It's funny. Throughout this whole process of doing these episodes, like digging deep into our cultures, we've sort of been talking about what these beers mean to us. Canadian was always considered like, this is the kind of beer where if you go to a local neighborhood bar, you would get a pitcher of this. You would get like a 2-liter pitcher of Molson Canadian.
I was going to ask you like that because, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because like what does it mean to you and what have you had it like? So I can see that, like that nice pitcher, when you're first experiencing beer being very inviting, especially if it's, it's affordable. Why not?
Exactly. Well, aroma cheers, my friend.
Aroma cheers to you, my friend. Aroma cheers.
Let me know what you think.
Okay. So, you know how that descriptor that I use also on the Labatt, like of the grainy presence? I find it a little bit on this as well, but I do seem to find a little bit more sweetness, like that malt, almost like, I don't want to say corn sweetness, but that's similar, what it reminds me of. I don't get there is clearly like hop presence, but it's not very, in your face. It's just almost like on the edge, like very, very delicate. I think I'm going to stay with the 1 here, my friend, to start. I think all the elements are there, but there's nothing really jumping out of the glass for me. So what do you think?
John Molson paddled all the way from England to Canada on a rickety, leaky, dilapidated boat to make this beer. Actually, the first beer they made was Molson Export, but I love your boat motion.
That's the boat I imagine.
It actually, according to an animation on their website, it looked very much like a pirate ship. It's got this really sort of processed, sweet, malty aroma to it. You know what I mean? That's sort of like really, process is the best word that I can come up with, because it doesn't smell natural. It doesn't smell like it's coming from natural ingredients. It's like this overly sort of concentrated, sweet maltiness that you get off like a lot of cheaper beers. And that's what's coming through on the aroma. Like you said, no hoppiness at all. I think a 1. A 1's pretty fair. John Molson. Well, here we go. Let's cheers, buddy. Let's take a taste.
Cheers, my friend.
Oh.
I'm trying to picture him, in that boat, coming over and taking sip of the beer as he goes.
I hope he wasn't drinking this beer on the boat. I hope he had a better beer for that journey. Oh, I gotta stay positive. We're positive beer reviewers.
We try to be, and I think that's one of the good things that we do here. We try to think and look at the positive sides of beer.
Exactly. All right, my friend, what do you think of the taste?
Coming from the aroma that had like that initial strong sweet presence, I would say it at first it showcases a little bit more bitter presence, or at least not sweet, let's say.
Yeah.
There's not too much, again, like in my opinion, apart from that, like, concentrated, processed flavor. I think on the taste, I'm going to go with a half a point here, my friend. And
I'm so jealous because when we dug into your heritage, your most popular beers are Peroni and Moretti, and for me, it's like Labatt Blue and Canadian. There's so many amazing Canadian beers. This isn't a representation of Canadian beer in general, but this is just like 2 of the most well-known exported brands and highest selling Canadian beers internationally. Yeah, you know what it is? If you took the essence of beer and you you made a concentrate out of it, like a drop of like, this is beer flavor, and then you just drop that into water and then you take a sip of it. Like, that's kind of what this is, where it's just like that really sort of synthetic, malty sort of but a little sour even. And it's so strange because I've had pitchers, like ice cold pitchers of Molson Canadian, watching a hockey game in a pub in Montreal, and it's fine. It does the job. But like in this review setting, when you're really pouring it out and smelling it and like tasting it, it takes on like a completely different life of its own. It's actually, I gotta take another sip here, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, but see, my friend, again, like I think we're this, like you said, being cold, ice cold, or straight out of the bottle or the can, like it's a different experience. We're being a little bit more judgmental here.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's our job. We're beer barometers. We have to.
It's not offensive. It's not bad. Like it's no Busch Light. I'm going to go with a 1. I think I'm going to stick with a 1 on 3 here for the taste. So now, buddy, we got to do a little refresher here. Get ourselves a little mouthfeel reading.
Favorite part?
Jeez. The things we do for this channel.
Oh, here we go.
This is actually surprising to me. I wasn't expecting to not enjoy it as much as I'm not enjoying this one. Oh man, the smell is like potent.
Okay.
Like it's not bad. Anyway, sorry, just go. I'll let you go.
The carbonation is like, at least in the bottle version, it's a little bit less than what I would have expected, but it's still very present. And it does cleanse the palate from that like slightly sweet, sticky feeling that I was getting.
It does. It totally does. Yeah. I
think you used a very nice descriptor in when we reviewed the Labatt. Like it has like almost like an effervescence that stays and lingers on your tongue for a little bit after, which is actually very pleasant. So I think on this I'm going to stay with a 1, my friend, because it has all the right elements for a good mouthfeel, considering the style. Like I think it's very well done. Again, not any big surprises. So 1 I think is fair. What do you think, my friend?
The mouthfeel is probably my favorite part of this beer. Actually, it's got like a really refreshing, crisp, carbonated mouthfeel. It's you would think based on the taste that it would be a little bit more oily than it is, but it's not. It's not overly oily. Like I've told you, I've watched many hockey games in bars in Montreal drinking very much Molson Canadian. And it's very drinkable. I mean, you can definitely, a lot of times the mouthfeel is kind of one of the things that will turn you off from being able to drink a large quantity of a certain kind of beer. This one definitely, it's really refreshing. I think I'll go with as far as lagers go, 1.5. I'm going to stick with the 1.5 on the mouthfeel. Give it a little bit of a boost in score there. But now the finish, good sir, of John Molson's 70-year-old brew, which is actually kind of amazing. What do you think?
The finish actually has interesting elements because it showcases a little bit more of that hop presence for me, that is almost like fading away both on the aroma and on the palate, or at least not very present.
Yeah.
On the finish, it comes a little bit more, lingers. There is still a little bit of that like stickiness, which
a little bit,
but I will say that it's a very quick and clean finish. So I can see how having like a nice ice cold pitcher of this, especially if you're watching a hockey game, come on, like it goes with that, right? Like, so I think a 1 here is still like where I would stay. Like it's well done. There's nothing mind blowing, at least, but it's good. Like, and it's inviting you. You would take another sip. You want to go back for another sip. So that to me, like 1 is fair.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'm a little lost here. I don't even know where to start with the finish. You know what? It's not the finish has the potential with a beer like this. The finish has the potential to be a lot worse than it actually is. I think if this beer has anything going for it, I think it's the mouthfeel finish. It's like the second half of the beer experience. The aroma and the taste, not so much. But yeah, I think as far as lagers go, it doesn't linger too much. There's like that processed beer maltiness is just there. It's not over. I've had bad beers where it's a lot worse than this. I think a 1. I'm going to stick with a 1 on the finish. It's pretty fair. It's processed. It's nothing special. It doesn't linger too much, which is a positive. So it doesn't dip below the 1 for me. But now, my friend, now we come down to where the intangibles come into play. The overall beer experience. From beginning to end, how have you enjoyed your Molson Canadian today?
So, my friend, like the overall, it's always my favorite category when we get here, because part of it, like the pressure is off, right? Yeah. Like we've analyzed the beer, we're good, like so we can kind of like talk about the overall experience. And you know what? Like I was walking in the review, at least from the memory ahead of it, I was actually quite surprised. Like it's just like you said about the mouthfeel and finish, like the end part of the experience was where I was really pleasantly surprised. And I will add that, just like you said, like this kind of beer in a setting where you have it like ice cold, you're watching a game, you are at a game, maybe you're with your friends, and you're just like really enjoying the atmosphere. I think I'm gonna go as high as a 2. You know, for the I think it deserves it because it is, like you said, a quintessential beer. I'm sure, like here for North America, and I know about a lot of people that like, you know, even not necessarily Canadian, that do enjoy having a Molson like while watching hockey games. So
there you go. Like you were saying, like even in I remember actually when we went to go watch a Tampa Bay Lightning game, you could get big cans of Molson Canadian there.
You
so it's
absolutely
amazing.
can.
The reach
both,
that this beer has.
Molson
or the
or the Labatt also. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And the Labatt. And so it has a really strong association with hockey in particular,
exactly.
Which is where it has a real stranglehold. This kind of beer, this kind of flavor of beer brings back a lot of memories for me again, just sitting in pubs in Montreal watching the Canadians play. There's a lot of memories associated with this particular style and taste of beer. So in terms of an overall experience, I think from beginning to end, I think I'm going to stick with a 1.5. I think it does the job. It does the job. It quenches your thirst if you're thirsty. It has some flavor to it. But overall, it's like, it is lacking in terms of quality. You could definitely tell that. Well, calculating our final scores here. For Alessandro, it came out to a 1.83 on 5, which in our rating system turns out to be a nice beer. It is. It's a nice beer. For myself, it's a little bit higher. I was a little bit more generous with Molson Canadian here today. 2 on 5 in our rating system. And as always, if you're curious about learning a little bit more about our rating system, check out a link in the video description below. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you did enjoy this video and you do want to be notified of all future Beer Bracket videos and join us for a beer every time we do post, hit that notification bell down below. Subscribe if you have it, if you dig the channel. Dig the channel, you want to see a little bit more. And cheers, let us know down below. What do you think about Molson Canadian?
Cheers. And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
Man, it really shines through, man. It really shines through.
Is it the Canadian experience that shines through?
The Canadian really shines through on this beer.